I want to thank you for this opportunity to present today. And I will be speaking first, followed by Kevin, and then Sarah Nielsen, and then Donica LeDuc. So could you go to the next slide, please? So the strategic planning process, just to take you back in time, it started at Cal State East Bay 14 years ago in recognizing the value of institutional learning outcomes, the knowledges, skills, and dispositions that students at Cal State East Bay are expected to have at graduation. So we started way back in 2006. And over 200 faculty, students, and leaders and staff were involved in the development a few years later. And we were one of the earlier Cal State campuses to begin this important work. So fast forward now to 2012, after the ILOs were adopted, faculty committees began developing the ILO rubric measurement tools and piloting them in courses. Many of you who are on this academic senate meeting have actively participated in shaping the ILOs throughout this process, and were also involved in reflecting on the results and taking steps to improve student learning. So now fast forward to 2018-19, we began a campus-wide implementation assessing ILOs, starting with written communication and information literacy. Kevin Kotz is going to summarize the data and information gathered, and Sarah Nielsen and Donica LeDuc are going to highlight some of the changes the college has made as a result. And Kevin, I'm going to turn the presentation now over to you.
All right, thanks, Maureen. Just give you a little background. So at the end of the spring 2019 term, I was part of a team of 5 faculty representing all the colleges in the library. What we ended up doing was getting calibration assessment training by the ILO subcommittee chair. And then we assessed about 100 student samples from 26 undergrad upper division courses. And then we also assessed a much smaller size for the information literacy ILO. These results have been summarized, and you can see these on the links on these slides. We also included other relevant university data, such as the writing skills requirements results, the library's information literacy program, a survey, and SCA data. And then in the fall of 2019, and it continued into this semester, the colleges and the EEC, the Educational Effectiveness Council, we reviewed all of these results and implemented changes outlined in the Closing the Loop report, and that is also attached on these slides. And now what Sarah Nielsen is going to do is highlight some of the changes that have been made in class and the university for writing. And Sarah, did you want to take over?
Yes, thank you, Kevin. So I'm just going to briefly talk about class written communication assessment, WST-related issues, and I'll also highlight 2 closing the loop initiatives that class is undertaking based on the assessment results. So turning first to GE and the composition program, we did complete the A2 written communication pilot assessment. That effort was led by Julie Stein, Karen Inouye, and more than a dozen English faculty, and their efforts were instrumental in the development and piloting of a rubric to assess 2 different kinds of student writing produced at the A2 first year composition level. Based on this pilot assessment, we learned that our first year students tend to have strengths in the areas of rhetorical knowledge, organization of ideas, and reflection on their own learning. As a group, they were more challenged by academic conventions, language, style, voice, and mechanic choices. We also learned that the current support course that we have for first year composition students, English 109, has not been as effective as we had hoped. English has already made some changes and is working on some additional modifications. Class faculty have also been involved in A4 or second composition rubric development. And although that level of composition for our sophomore students has not yet been assessed, if we put together the A2 rubric and the assessment process along with the A4 second composition assessment process that is well underway, I think the campus is in really good position to not only be able to assess student writing at the graduation level through GWAR assessment and ILO assessment, but will also be able to look at our students' development at certain points in time in their freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior year. And I think that that will give us important insights moving forward about what we need to do to be sure that our students leave our campus with the ability to write effectively for their own learning, and to write and use their written voice to communicate in their academic, civic, and personal lives. So I think we're moving in a great direction with our lower division assessment of writing. For the graduating writing assessment requirement, which we've just had a discussion of, I'll skip the changes to the GWAR that you've been discussing here in the previous time. I hope you can still hear me. My understanding of the memo, and I think a lot of people in class, is that we are going to have to move towards a course-based approach to GWAR, and I think that this course-based approach is something that will serve our students well. Class looks forward to collaborating with the various stakeholders to be able to serve our students better through our GWAR coursework. And then finally, I just wanted to mention that class is using the data that we got from the institutional assessment of writing at the college level. Our dean, Wendy Ng, has secured approval to hire a writing across the curriculum specialist. And we are also working in the college office on a needs analysis of writing instruction and related activities that will be rolling out. We're doing the planning now, and we'll be rolling it out in fall. And so now I'd like to turn things over to Donica.
Thank you, Sarah. I think the institutional learning outcome assessment has achieved one of its main goals, which is to start a conversation among faculty and help us move forward and understand what we want to achieve. I think in the College of Science, there was a lot of hallway grumbling about students not being able to write. And I think now we move to a slightly more sophisticated view, which is that writing is very complicated and it requires a deep understanding of your disciplinary content to the point where you can explain it, and also the facility to communicate that aids rather than hinders the reader's comprehension. We're also looking at writing not as a summative assessment in the same way, but as a practice in self-reflection, an ability to write to learn, and also the opportunity for us as mentors and faculty to give feedback, insight into both their analysis and synthesis of thought. In order for this complex process to work, we need to scaffold it, we need to model it, and we need to support and practice it within our discipline. And I think in some places before semester for conversion, we hadn't been doing that as effectively as we are now and in going forward. I wanted to give you two examples. These are not GWAR examples, but writing two. We have a class called Engineering 200, and we still have a summative writing assignment in this Introduction to Engineering and Design course, but we have changed the process based on assessment results this semester to include more in-class writing activities, more frequent activities in smaller chunks so that it's more accessible for students and they can gain the skills that they need in order to do a better job at the summative process. And you can notice this is a 200 level course, so we're starting early. The next slide, please. And another example is Physics 230, and the foundational idea of this class is that clear scientific writing goes hand in hand with sound scientific writing. And in this class, write in every class in a variety of modes, and we also have a lot of support from our library liaison, Jeffra Busman, who also helps with one of our math classes. So I really appreciate that cross-university collaboration. Next slide. I'm not going to go through all these, but what I did want to emphasize is that all of our programs are taking approaches to make sure that students are writing early and often from freshman, sophomore year up through their graduate program, with the idea that the more practice and the ability to improve their sophistication in both their content knowledge and in their writing goes hand in hand. And I would like to open the floor, if there's time, for questions to the panel. Thank you for your attention.